An educated lady known to be of impeccable character sitting at her computer. She pauses for a brief second looking outside of the night sky and then writes with a gun in the street, $12,000 is fine, just do it ASAP. Whoever's on the other side of that message writes for $4,000 will throw acid interface and for $50,000 will torture her to death. The woman shakes her head. No, just kill her. That's based on a true story, and the person this woman was talking about could have been you today. You'll hear about hitman, drug traffickers, killers, even cannibals move, all at some point, caught up in the darkest part of the internet. You'll hear why. This is not a place you should go to, and we'll give you many reasons why. First of all, you should know where you're going when you visit the dark web. Ensure it's hidden within something called the deep web. The deep web is just a part of the internet, not accessible by your standard search engines. And that makes a most of the net. The dark web accounts for only about 0.1% of the deep web. To get there, you'll have to download certain software on your computer, such as the Tor browser should give you anonymity. Although as you'll see today, it's not always the case. Tor was invented by the US government to create anonymous communications. And today, you'll find journalists and activists using it as more open communication could find them in a spot of trouble. WikiLeaks, for instance, is part of the dark web. Although it publishes on the open one. With this in mind, it's not illegal to download some software and start using the dark web. It's what you do with all that anonymity that counts, which is what you're going to hear about in this rather dark show today. Let's also remember that you might just be a curious sort of person, just was a look around at dark web. But by doing this, there's always the chance that you might walk down the wrong virtual alleyway and find yourself in a place you wish you'd never gone. You might also be a marked man after this or before we talk about the really creepy stuff on the dark web. Which in first talk about drugs, the legal kind. Some of you might have met a person who told you they ordered the purest they've ever had on the dark web. It was delivered to their door without a problem. Wow, how convenient. But listen on before you put your order in for a sheet of colorful acid tabs and 24 ecstasy pills that look like little Lego bricks. You can indeed do this. And many people have, with one former big fan of the dark web drug business calling a place Amazon run by the cartels, explained to that just about any illegal drug you could think of was there on offer, including precursors. You fans of Breaking Bad will know that. These are the substances you need to make certain drugs such as crystal meth, and believe it or not, the sites selling the drugs are often pretty reliable since there is a place to get feedback to the seller. So you might find a comment that says grade a Coke and delivered on time, top seller. A few years back, there was a seller with the name of Jesus of Rave Honest site. He stated in a quite professional way, working with UK distributors, importers and producers to source qual. We run a tight ship and to get your order out the same or next day. This time ship also refers to our attitude to you and your privacy. We've been doing this for a long time. It seems that ordering drugs on the dark web in Britain really took off a few years ago. There are also lots of recent news reports stating that seizures of exceeding amphetamines in the post has increased dramatically with the drugs, mostly coming from the Netherlands. After being ordered on the dark web, The Guardian wrote this in 2019. Criminal organizations in the Netherlands are major producers and exporters of synthetic drugs exported via sea containers or trucks. But there is said to have been a growth in online purchases in which postal services are exploited. The US, Australia and New Zealand are the main recipients outside of Europe. The same article said that a sting operation led to a massive 300 kilograms of drugs and 51 firearms that same year. A dark website called the Wall Street Market (WSM) was shut down in Germany and arrests were made. The owners were making big bucks, selling heroin, cocaine, weed and speed, as well as malicious software documents and stolen data. It worked in 6 languages: English, French, German, Italian, Portuguese and Spanish. At the time, prosecutors wrote WSM operated like a conventional e-commerce website, such as eBay or Amazon. However, its sole existence was geared to the trafficking of contraband. As you probably know, the money to be made selling drugs is just so good that arresting dealers or traffickers is like playing a game of whack them all. You put one in prison and another pops up. The war on drugs has been nothing but a failure for the most part, with the authorities looking like the guy who was told he had to push around rock up a hill for all the eternity. This means 2 things. One thing is that you can be assured that despite these arrests you can still go on the dark web right now and order pretty much any drug you want. But it also means that you can be assured that some men with badges will be trying to put you in prison for it. This is why it's dangerous. You might think you can get away with it seeing as you have anonymity. But you actually don't. The FBI and other law enforcement entities are all over at the dark web. This is the problem with the dark web. You can get eaten by lighters. When people think they have impunity, they can get careless. That's what happened recently, when 150 people were arrested in an operation called Dark Contour Law Enforcement from Europe. The US and Australia were involved, and about $25 million worth of drugs were taken in this case. No small-time buyers were arrested, just the sellers, but cops warned about something else. Many of the drugs, these days, contain the killer substance fentanyl. This stuff works well in hospitals for pain relief and might sound good to a hardcore opiate addict. But the truth is there have been a stalling number of news reports, including ones involving famous people, of folks thinking they're taking a drug like cocaine and dying because the white powder also had fentanyl. As we write this, 5 people died, all at once, of an accidental overdose in the US when they didn't know that their powder contained the drug. But doing a quick search, we could have chosen numerous stories that included the words accidental fentanyl overdose. We don't condone drug use here, but if a person is intended on taking drugs, then the safest thing would be to know what you are taking from the dark web. You really don't know what you're getting, and since everything is anonymous, the seller might not care too much about what they're giving you. Even if you die, there's very little chance that they'll ever be arrested. We found a story containing the words fentanyl-laced ecstasy tablets. Grave to the grave might be the suitable expression here. Unfortunately, while it could save tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of lives, the authorities, for the most part, have always been dead set against providing folks with easily available drug testing equipment. On top of this, sometimes the buyers do get arrested. There's a story in 2020 that stated 179 people were arrested in a massive bust involving multiple drugs and guns, and some of those arrested were buyers. Most really US, others in the UK, Germany, in Sweden, the Netherlands and Austria. At the time, the authorities claimed that the golden age of the dark web marketplace is over, but they've been claiming to be winning the war on drugs since people watched black and white television. Nonetheless, Europa had a warning for prospective buyers and sellers, saying the hidden internet is no longer hidden, and your anonymous activity is not anonymous. Law enforcement is committed to tracking down criminals, no matter where they operate, be it on the streets or behind a computer screen. They've even been arresting small-time dealers, as can be seen in one story involving a Florida man using the name Candy Man. His line of work was mostly the distribution of cocaine. He would send the stuff right to your house, via the mail, and guess what? Once he was arrested, the cops also knew where he'd been sending the stuff. We'll add one more thing here. Some people on the dark web might be pretending to sell drugs, but all they're after is your personal information. They're looking to exploit that information, and as you'll soon see, sometimes they can blackmail you. Mostly though, they're fishing in order to get their hands on your money. You can buy phishing kits on the dark web, but you can also be phished. Okay, so maybe drugs are your thing. Maybe you're not really into anything illegal. But you do have a very curious mind when someone told you they had a video of man being cut up with the chainsaw. You just had to watch Freak. Unfortunately, gore sites are all over the open internet, and while it's technically not illegal to post videos of such things as someone being stoned to death, beheaded, or perhaps eating a great big dish of steaming poop, sometimes what you see will forever scar that mind of yours. Unless, of course, you are either desensitized to that kind of thing or a bit on the weird side that makes up a lot of society. Actually, Scene is just one site back of the day called Best Gore, was getting in the region of 10 to 20 million hits a month. The owner of Best Score was eventually arrested after posting the video called One Lunatic, One Ice Pick, which consisted of an internally unstable maniac, named Data This, membering a guy, then sending some of the body parts to schools and political offices. Obviously, that was a very serious crime. Magna is now in prison where he belongs. If you know the story, you'll know that before he was arrested, animal activists were also hot on his tail, because some of the videos consistent of him doing very bad things to kittens. So, maybe one day you get on the dark web and end up seeing something you wish you hadn't. Right. Now, some of you are thinking that infographic show writers are just big horses. Maybe gore is nothing to you. According to the Washington Post, much of the worst gore talked about that is supposedly available on the dark web is just that talk. You might have heard that you can watch a movie that stars a person being murdered, aka snuff movie, but they may not actually exist. Some of them are set up and no one dies, or the rumors about certain films are just rumors. Still, videos of accidental deaths or executions do exist. And it's not illegal for you to watch them, as one writer pointed out. It's illegal to murder somebody, it's illegal to watch somebody get murdered and not report it, but it's not illegal to watch it online snuff film. At least not at the moment. You wouldn't, for instance, have been in trouble if you watched a video that surfaced on the web made by the so-called net profiles. Ukrainian teenagers brutally murdered 21 people in 2007, and they filmed a lot of the violence for a time. You might have been able to see some of that on gore sites, but not anymore. Still, as we speak, people are going to the dark web to watch similar stuff. One journalist went there to check out such gore later, writing that there is a danger in becoming desensitized to it. He said, in an article, "I can make you physically sick in minutes by showing you the stuff now, but the second or third, or fourth time, you see it, you get desensitized to it all." It happens to a lot of people. It creates a lack of empathy in people. And the more you watch, the worse it gets. We don't need to tell you that this isn't good for your mental well-being, but this guy said, people get addicted to it. He added, "I don't know what drives people to it, it's just pure evil. Why does someone want to watch that? The uncomfortable truth is, there's a lot of evil out there, then you could be down one of those bloody rabbit holes and really see something you wish you hadn't in the content of a sexual nature. That is very much illegal. Your curiosity could possibly take you there." In 2019, BBC reported that 3 having people were arrested in 38 countries because they were involved in such content of the users. The police said they are not as close as they think they are. They're not as safe as they think they are. You never know if you're being watched when you're on the dark web. There to a guy in the US that talked on a web forum in the dark web about killing his wife. Yes. Other people for advice on how you might do it. He wrote, "I aim to ensure my wife's death within 18 months, ideally long. After I can force his finalized about 6 months from now. This is the only way I can begin a new life with full custody of my child." After some discussion, he came up with poison, which he said might be putting her coffee wiped on a door handle just slipped on her feet while she was asleep. He then tried to buy what the authorities call a chemical weapon. They later explained to the media that it was a colorless, volatile, flammable, and highly toxic liquid that can be easily absorbed through the skin. It might produce life-threatening systemic effects with only a single drum. The man bought the chemicals too, paying $95 for a 10-milliliter vial. The problem is the seller was none other than the FBI agents arrested him after he went to the place he asked for to be mailed. Once at custody, admitted to the murder plot and said he'd been thinking about using the dark web to hiring men. But he told agents that hiring a hitman would be as expensive as getting the hitman on the dark web could also get you trouble. Not too long back, you could have visited a so-called hitman for hire website on the dark web and found one that stated, "If you want to kill someone, we are the right guys. We have professional hitmen available throughout the entire USA, Canada, and Europe, and you can hire a contract killer easily." One guy was told that he could have his wife killed for $6,000 and the death would look like an accident. A bunch of such sites were around back then with names such as Sicilian Hitmania and Yakuza Mafia. They were all actually owned by the same person. Once I claim, we offer a large international network of experienced hitmen and provide services to beat up, set fire, or kill customers' targets. We assign him to the same country as the target with the appropriate skills that match the job specifications. The thing is, the guy behind the sites never intended to kill anyone. He just took the money and at times talked to the FBI there. Have been instances where someone went on the dark web trying to hire hitmen, and after the payment was made, the person got arrested. This happened not long ago with a British doctor, and it later happened to a woman in Denmark for hiring someone to whack her former boyfriend. In a very recent case, included a 51-year-old woman in Florida who got to the dark web and tried to hire a hitman to murder the new wife of her ex-boyfriend. She paid $12,000 in Bitcoin and a further $350 for the gun, and all that information was seen by the FBI. The agency also sent a first message, which read, "I'm looking for a quick hit in Southern Florida. Is anyone available?" This was a woman with a master's degree who had her own financial consulting business and regularly attended church. She was sentenced to 6.5 years in prison. The website was just another scam. Although it looked real enough, it stated that the prices were $5,000 for death by shooting, $20,000 for death by sniper, and just $2,000 for a good old beating. In another recent case involving a man in Italy, he paid €10,000 or $11,855 in Bitcoin. A week ago, visit his girlfriend and Peter to death. European police got into this, although the news stories didn't exactly have in 2020.
A woman in Michigan was also hoodwinked by such a website that she believed had 18,000 authorities working worldwide. She gave the site $5,000 to knock off her husband. It turns out that the site was run by a man in the U.S. who never killed anyone but pretended to be a hitman as a way to catch potential criminals. This is a multi-level. He fixed websites made into his the site told the media that since he talked to about 400 people are lucky to have someone killed. 2 people wanted to sign up as hitman and I said about 10% of the people. He chatted with some legitimate requests for the problem. The point of the legend is when you're on the you never quite know what's we're so funny to talk to a hitman and pretend he wanted to my girl, but even that could get you in trouble. He always limited it to ask the person if he still wanted the phone game. If it would, he then got on the phone with law enforcement, talking about one of his first cases. He called the media and get an email from women saying she needed 3 people murdered. She sent a second email with the names and numbers of the people she wanted killed. The woman was a British Canadian who said the people she wanted dead had stolen the inheritance. She sent a message to her father, the website was started to kill, even she was going to stop it. I reached out to a friend, who is a surgeon and son. I think that's a little serious. If you question websites that were friend notified Canadian authorities, she was eventually sent to prison for a few months for listening to commit murder. The website owner was proud, saying he helped save the lives of 3 couple. Although we have to question if these women would have had those children in the end, just killing herself. The one website claimed that women just call people on the although, no one said you call him weird. One was poisoning was 42 grand was $10,000. Not only are these sites scams, the person doesn't get reported to the police. How do they ask for their money back? They're talking to you, they're able to deliver the calls about their missing money. These days, the newest hitman websites on the dark web tell people that there are all kinds of hitman schemes out there. Once undercover, we can provide visual proof of our services with time saver. Again, such proof is made possible for fake services. That's how they upgrade. Instead of the real Canadian website. Going as far as hiring some key to set a car on fire and showing the justice for the potential prosecution business. It was later found out that the guy using the car on fire was a man in California who contacted the website using his cell phone to get involved with the business. The website in this case is called Cybersecurity. It was later cultivated and the media article was discovered. $6,000 to have his life. He then filtered himself. There is no shortage of spiders and crazy people on the dark web, which in general is mediated with very bad. We can only find one instance where it's been proven by everyone more higher on the dark web and actually recorded. That was a case in Russia, where troops engaged always called a drug trafficker. For a while though, drug trafficker is sure. If you go to the dark web and try to hire someone to do something nasty for you, you likely just lose a lot of money and then end up in prison not long ago. You might also never do something bad to you. For another person, you can prove the movement of the evil. Using the name 666 Benjamin Evil Barcelona. This guy went on dark web forums and talked about all manner of disgusting things. Usually involving young people. His thing was to lure people online into thinking he liked them and then his teaching it on. He asked them to make very compromising videos of themselves, since he was well spoken and so sincere. People fell for it. However, his very educated holding a position as a geophysicist. Researcher at Berlin University. Once he had his hands on the images of videos, he said that if the victims didn't feed him a crash, he'd send the content to everyone. He knew in one message, he told a young victim that he would send the images to everyone on Facebook associated with his school. Letters to the parents and teachers explaining with pronouns of all the pictures that you will. Most of the victims were naive. In some cases, he told them to show them things, licking, toilet seats, and eating dog food after. He posted the content to his many fans on the dark web. He wrote in one post, "That's God's quota." Some of them are going to do this. We don't want to for amusement. Imagine visiting a website with a couple like that post things, immediately creating a finding this person. Another example of blackmail and dog.
The man who
He tried to buy drugs on the web was given an address, only for him to receive a letter. In here, the doctors asked for the bills.
you believe in
The man who Scandal is at best English, but this is just another example of how it's caught on the web. And potentially making it more. However, some people go to the dark web to just pretend to be something. They're not necessarily exciting. These people seem to fantasies. This can also go to the trouble. Never mind.
blackmail,
The case of the New York City police officer. The cannibal Bob. Everybody was going to go about it a few years ago.
he said it's true.
The website called Don't Try to Smart. I'm checking about anyone to keep including his own wife,
The woman,
disturbing messages on his computer.
he didn't just hang a computer.
He had a list of messages he needed. Names, addresses, he had thanks to his job. One of his messages about his wife said that he wanted to let her get up and boots her while she changed. At the time, because this guy really didn't seem like a killer character. His conversations on the forum were all about me. He said, in quote,
His time
he wanted to use his workplace with people that was really bad.
I got to get
He would probably let's start with actually other joking, but make no mistake. There are more people who can actually could have released from prison than his case.
That's the question.
First,
How much can you expect about crimes online?
without telling the problem alone, you can work right online or just mess about it with himself. We're guessing that some of you are trying to find friends.
Just for fun.
Maybe there's someone who died and understand that previous wouldn't do that online. We should probably give it a reason 2018.
A man in the US making a copy of the found the floor in your hand. It's
His name was Alexander, Nathan Gator, 21 years old. First of all, yet again, the safety mechanism I don't know. But secondly,
you can hear yourself posting this kind of content
which is not long.
after one location in the
So working for the Texas Department of Public Safety that started providing him expense services. They were reported that several other emails were exchanged in this group by the agent to meet him. I really want to do this. Weber was arrested on the day. The murder was supposed to have been involvement of his niece with a knife and some plastic bags. There was this disappointing system to see if he ever got it. The jury thought,
the prosecution said
as this killing case, doctors not always just caught.
the patient vigilant for
Partners has prevented him from finding a private accomplice and bringing his business to the fruition aside that no longer exists on the open web was called the Cannibal Cafe. When it was still up,
you cover in cases such as how many
March of 2011 completed while he was killed man,
he found on the floor. His computer
living on Monday brand is both member in the 30s and the until they were able to rest the city.
what happened was that
That's a long elections, cruising, and the cannibalistic sections from the institution of trial of the reality. He also ended up in prison.
and that's told you
Such things, but it was when we found the real life cannibalism website that there was a possibility. He asked me, so stupid as if he worked on the internet. I would have taken my secret to the grave. His interactions with these days, if you order platform about eating people, you struggle to do that in the open virtual space if you're not a texting guy. The dark web is the place to go for that kind of thing these days. You might have someone saying something like this. We live in a great crowd. I need someone to eat my fresh meat, smooth and gentle, and be a careful. Most of these people are just mentioning for the sake of sensitive. The more you listen to us, the more the subject gets dark and so much personal. Trust people might also be the one person that black colors unless you can put the most of the target into it. People are literally the journalists for great night. And why would you do that? The real reason, we shouldn't use it. The dark wonders, just how good. And to one any of the things we just mentioned, there really is no reason at all. And the world should be just solid. As it is, it's also undeveloped. Even if you do manage to yourself, finding